Hi, everybody. Good Yom Tov. There's a rabbi in Gemara, he talks about in the wedding mimer, I think it's Rabbah, who before he starts to teach tells a joke. And that joke opens people up to be able to be clear to listen to him. And I don't have a joke, but I have a song, and it's my version of Avinu Malkeinu, and I'll share it for you, with you. Oh, Tati Arke, why don't you do a good thing? And please return with your people. And the angels all sing, oh, glorious King, won't you please return with your people? They made you a crown, won't you come back to town? And please return with your people. Oh, Tati, our King, you know it don't mean nothing unless you please return with your people. And that's the whole deal of Hasidus, is connecting with Hashem himself. Now, like a country bumpkin who tells his friends about the great wonders of the big city that he visited, even though his understanding of the city is limited to his unsophisticated and ignorant level, still he's able to communicate some of the wonders that he experienced on his visit. So too, in my visit to the wonders of the 40 days between Rosh Chodesh Elul and Yom Kippur, a tour that I took through the Hasidus of the Alter Rebbe, I'm hoping that I'll be able to communicate to you some of the great wonders of the big city. Tshuva, these are the days of Tshuva, everybody knows. And Tshuva means to return to Hashem. And through doing that, we renew the lights in the vessels, like it says in the Tanya of the last couple of days, that over the year the lights go out of the vessels. And it doesn't say it in Tanya, but the reason the lights go out of the vessels is because of the sins and the overlooked opportunities that we experience during the year in the supernal worlds have less light. And through our tshuva, this time of year, we're able to bring in a new light to fill up those vessels. I am to my beloved is to me. He pastors me in roses. I'm to my beloved, that's our tshuva to Hashem. My beloved is to me, indicates Hashem's response that we elicit from him. And he accepts our tshuva, our return, with a smiling and a happy face. And he pastures us in roses, and those are the 13 attributes of mercy, and those 13 attributes of mercy is which provide the special opportunity for us to connect with Hashem and him to connect with us. In order to renew the world and make Hashem our King once again, we need to draw down a new light from Hashem's essential light. Why is it necessary to make a brand new light? How is that light elicited? From which level does it come? And how will that brand new light be manifest on the 10 days of Tshuva? Like it says, search for him where he can be found. The new divine light is activated by our tshuva. Tshuva comes into play from Rosh Chodesh Elul to Yom Kippur. And that which allows the possibility for our tshuva to activate and draw down this new infusion of godly light are the special roses our shepherd pastures us in this time of year. There is a place called the Holy Apple Orchard, which is Gan Eden. And there's a field there in Gan Eden where these special roses grow. It's not like the rest of the year. He gives us grass for our cattle. No, this time of year, he gives us roses. And what are these roses? They're the 13 attributes of mercy that were revealed to Moshe when he went up for these same 40 days, from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur. When he was on the mountain, and these same 13 attributes allow us to elicit a new light of divinity into the supernal worlds, and from there to us in our world. And how do we do that? Through our tshuva from the depth of our heart. Tshuva means to return to Hashem. And through that we'll renew and bring in new lights and repaired vessels and bring them back to a pristine state. And this is the accomplishment of tshuva. Tshuva, to return new light and life, to fill and renew and repair any imperfection. Because the damage that was caused, the light went out of the vessels. And that's what it says in Rosh Hashanah, on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, Hashem is sleeping. Because the light of the seichel of the Chabad went out, and he lays down and goes to sleep. Therefore, there's a need for a new divine light to be drawn down to renew and fill the imperfection. And that new divine light must be drawn from the highest source, from which level there is no higher. We say to Hashem, return us to you with complete tshuva, to you specifically, to Hashem himself. And through that will elicit new revelations of godly enjoyment and interest in our service. Through our heartfelt return to Hashem, the cry of the heart, a new light from the Or Ein Sof, from the unlimited light, can be elicited from that cry of the heart. Well, that's a very nice and inspiring thought. But how does it work? To have faith in that, what I just said, is fine. But faith needs to be internalized through intellect, according to Hasidus. And that's through the teaching of the Rebbes, who are the faithful shepherds, who feed us the faith so that we can internalize it. Now, to explain how it works that a new light can be drawn down, it needs an introduction. Everybody here knows that Hashem is infinite. And he manifests that infinitude quality through the infinite light, which is called the Or Ein Sof. And everyone can understand that if Hashem revealed that infinite light like it is, we would not exist. Think of the earth falling into the sun. Therefore, Hashem hides that light completely. He leaves an apparently empty place, and apparently because there is nothing empty of Hashem, it's just Hashem is hiding in that darkness. Then he reveals a thin line, a thread of that infinite light in that empty place. And with that line, he describes a wondrous contraption called the chain of descent. And why it's called a chain? Because like a chain is made of many links, and it could be this chain has 100,000 or 1,000,000 links. And like every chain, the bottom of the top link is connected to the top of the bottom, all the way from one link to the next. But there's a funny thing about a chain. When the bottom link is shaken, the one that moves the most is the top link, even though it goes through the chain. And when the top one is shaken, the one that moves the most is the bottom one. So too, when Hashem wants to connect with us, he shakes the top link, so to speak, and the one that moves the most is us. We do what he wants. And when we shake the bottom link, when we do tshuva, it's not the middle links that are affected, even though it goes up in the chain. It's Hashem himself. It's the top link that moves the most. It's an amazing contraption, that Seder South. That line, that thin line, has potential of infinity. Or else, how can you say there's a thin line of infinite light? It has infinite potential, like 1 foot could measure a building of 1,000,000 feet. 3 lines make a base. So that line measures any kind of existence. And from this line, will be measured out and described circles, which are called surrounding lights, which means Hashem's desire for a certain level. And then from those surrounding lights will descend an infilling light. And the infilling light, which is a straight light, will be in the anthropomorphic description of a man. There will be a head and a body and feet. And I'm not going to go through all the links in the chain and tell you how each one has a surrounding and a straight. And how can it be that this godly representation of a man, because Hashem has no body and he has no form, so how is that? Because he emanates certain characteristics, certain attributes, and his attribute of kindness is what we call his right hand. And his attribute of intellect is what we call his brain. So these are the straight lines. Now, to give an example, so that we have some idea what we're talking about, when a king tells a general to speak, to go and capture a certain city, that speech is the lowest level of the king. And that becomes the desire, the highest level of the general. It completely circles his whole existence and being. But then the general uses the straight line. He uses his intellect and his emotions to figure out how to carry out the king's will. And then with his lowest level, with his speech, he directs the general staff, and then he directed them becomes the thing that's surrounding them and their purpose and their being. And then they use their own powers, the new straight line, to be able to accomplish what the general wants. And that's how these circles and lines work. From the depths, we will call to you, Hashem. The tshuva of the 10 days of tshuva, there is depths, multiple depths. One of them will be the top of that line, the top of that kav, and another one will be that empty place. And in order for us to draw down a new light, it has to be from the essence of the infinite light, even higher than the empty place. And in order to draw down the new light, we have to elicit it from the original source, which is our Chevras, Hashem himself. To draw down that infinite light from before Hashem hid himself into that line, and then the line starts that process again of the circles and the straight lines, but now it's a brand new light. And the whole chain is now lit up with a new light in a pristine perfection until it finally reaches the world of Atzilus, all the way down to the lowest level of Atzilus, which is Malchus of Atzilus. And now it's no more a light coming down. Now it's actually Hashem. The original Ratzon, the original desire of Hashem is he'll be our king. And that's what's accomplished on the 10 days of Tshuva. Hashem himself is revealed through those 13 attributes of mercy. My beloved is to me, he pastors me in Rosie. And through Tshuva and the shofar, the godly king is built during those 10 days into a full person. In those days of Tshuva, that's when the 13 attributes of mercy are revealed. And through them is revealed the life of the world and the new year. And it's Hashem himself that becomes our king, not some kind of a light that comes down. And even though there's a new light, it's really Hashem's original desire that he should be revealed as our king. Now, there's a parallel manifestation that I want to talk about, which is the birth of the Alter Rebbe. After all, today is the Alter Rebbe's birthday. And on a Farbrengen in the year 1745, the Baal Shem Tov said, among other things, that it is a pregnant year. There's 2 others that year. And right afterwards, he sent 2 Hasidim to Rabbi Baruch in the town of Liazna to bless his wife who was 4 months pregnant with the Alter Rebbe. And our Rebbe explains the special connection of a pregnant year and the impending birth of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe's soul was a new soul. It had never come into the world. And this new soul descended to empower and enable the human intellect to understand godliness through the inner teachings of Torah through their attributes of Chachma, Bina, and Das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And this required the Alter Rebbe to bear the hardship and deprivation of prison with self-sacrifice, and therefore the heavenly court ruled that in the merit of his self-sacrifice, the Torah of Hasidus was established. And with this self-sacrifice, the Alter Rebbe cleared the way for us to follow the straight path that he prepared for us. For a soul dwelling under Hashem's glorious throne to descend into a physical body, the body needs to go through the stages of embryonic development, whether for 7 or 9 or 12 months. And during that process, the body will grow with 248 limbs, 365 vessels, and at the same time, the soul will move from its pristine spiritual state, descending through various stages until it's completely engulfed and settled in the body. He breathes it into me. And when the new soul of the Alter Rebbe was going through its stages of development, the whole world was in an embryonic state. That's what the Baal Shem Tov was hinting, that it's a pregnant year. And at that time, the world was in a state of pregnancy on 2 levels. The embryonic state of the new soul, which was needed to illuminate the world with the light of the inner teachings of Torah. And 2, the world was in an embryonic state in preparation for receiving the revelation of that soul. 2 more pages. Our Rebbe says there are those who mistakenly think it's not their job to teach Hasidus. They say, I haven't perfected myself. I don't really know too much. So how am I going to have effect on a person who knows even less? Therefore, we say to him, you are not the first one to walk this path. The way has been prepared for you, the way of the king of the world, for the spreading out of the inner level of Torah. So if you know an Aleph and Beis, like the Rebbe said, teach the other guy an Aleph. And to conclude with the teaching from the Alter Rebbe, as noted by the Mittler Rebbe, the whole 40 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur are merely a preparation for Simchas Torah, which happens to be 13 days after Yom Kippur, a new level of the 13 attributes of mercy. And he explains why we dance in a circle and its connection to Mashiach. We spoke before about the lines in the circles. And in the time of Gullus, there are outside forces that are separating between the circles and the lines. The straight lines are the supernal man and our earthly man. And we're separated from the circles, which is the divine, all-encompassing perfection. But when Mashiach comes, that separation, that iron curtain, will be removed. Death will be banished. And Hashem will have us dance in a big circle around him. We'll point with our finger and say, look, look, here is Hashem.